investigation into reported misconduct by some of the building commission staff. 5 other commission employees also were fired. Adams and 5 others filed suit against Bronner. Now Adams has withdrawn from the suit, but the others are asking for a total of more than $2 million in damages.
At the heart of the lawsuit is the question of whether the building commission employees were exempt from the merit system. Bronner's lawyers say they were and so could be fired without a hearing. But the employees' lawyers say it takes an act of legislature to exempt an employee, and both parties agree the legislature never took any such action.
Bronner's lawyers contend that the finance director acted in good faith because for hiring and payroll purposes, the commission employees were treated as exempt from the state's merit system. Judge Hobbs lifted a stay on the plaintiffs, allowing their lawyers to get more evidence before he hears the case further. Lisa Nielsen, WSFA TV News.
Mayberry pleaded innocent today, and his attorney, Maury Smith, says his client flatly denies all allegations against him. Smith said Mayberry, Industry Relations Manager for South Central Bell, is not guilty. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Jimmy Evans, charges Mayberry was part of a conspiracy to influence decisions by the PSC through the procurement of prostitutes for former PSC Executive Director Ralph McLemore. According to Evans, Mayberry and another man, Cecil Dupree, president of the Graceba Telephone Company, had originally planned to have McLemore entertained at a Panama City, Florida condominium owned by Dupree. Evans says when that plan was foiled, they arranged for 2 prostitutes to entertain McLemore at a Montgomery motel. Evans charges McLemore returned the favor by urging the PSC to give priority to the South Central Bell telephone rate case by arranging to have what Evans called a phony consumer witness to testify in the case. Mayberry's attorney, Maury Smith, told the 11-man, 1-woman jury that his client was not involved in any such actions. That consumer witness, Larry Sieb, was indicted late yesterday by a Montgomery County grand jury for allegedly lying to the jury about whether he ever gave any PSC employee a gift. Sieb's name came up several times today. The trial will be going on for at least 3 more days. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News at the Montgomery County Courthouse.
Year or 2 years, and the planning and the
It's through the sharing of everyone's resources.
Several hundred students, faculty, and Tuskegee residents attended today's memorial service. Tuskegee Institute officials say the bodies of all 6 students who were on the bus have been found. The 6 are Dwayne P. Adderley, a junior in political sciences, Alfonso Blizz, a junior in applied sciences, John H. Calloway, a sophomore majoring in engineering, Laverne L. Daniels, a junior in arts and sciences, and Yvonne Johnson, a junior in education. All the students were from Miami and were going home for the summer when the accident happened. Tuskegee chaplain Andrew Johnson says he can't accept some people's idea that the accident was God's work. Johnson says it was caused by human error because someone was derelict in their responsibility. Speaking on behalf of the college, one Tuskegee official says the entire community is hurt by the 6 deaths, and the school shares the family's grief. Cassandra Taylor, WSFA TV News, Tuskegee.
2 years ago, women in Old Cloverdale were afraid to go out or answer their doors because of a series of purse snatchings and assaults. One woman surprised a would-be burglar and he beat her with a stick. Police brought dogs in to help protect the area. Now police have arrested 20-year-old David Murphy Walker and charged him with first-degree burglary in connection with one of the burglaries. A victim identified Walker in a police lineup. He's in jail under $15,000 bond. Police say they expect more arrests relating to the series of robberies. Lisa Nielsen, WSFA TV News.
Today's testimony turned from alleged sex for pay in return for favored treatment at the PSC to allegations of secret illegal political payoffs to former Public Service Commission President Juanita McDaniel and present Public Service Commissioner Pete Matthews. Cecil Dupree made those charges. He said Mayberry told him of a $50,000 contribution to Mrs. McDaniel, and Dupree told the jury of a meeting here at a Montgomery motel where, according to Dupree, Matthews, then the candidate for the PSC, Mayberry, a gas company executive, and several phone company executives discussed what Matthews would do for them if elected to the PSC. Dupree then said Mayberry agreed to give Matthews $500. Dupree said the money was to come from overpayment in an equipment sale to Mayberry's company. Mayberry's lawyers, Maury Smith and Sterling Culpepper, objected to Dupree's telling of the alleged payoffs, saying it had no standing in the case and nothing to do with the charges in the case. The trial is expected to continue for several more days. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News at the Montgomery County Courthouse.
Well, I think it's between 4 schools. I've been making Alabama the favorite, with LSU second and us in Tennessee fighting for third, but I really don't see the meet being anything but 14 points difference between first and fourth. The reason I make Alabama the favorite was because they had a good meet last weekend, but I'm not counting out any of the teams. Of course, the meet will be won on the track. The teams that are ready for it, the teams that have less injuries, will be the winning team out there.
Tom Graves got you a lot of points last year. He won't be here. How much damage does that do to you?
Well, that was the thing that made us an easy favorite. With Tom's 18 points, I felt that was enough of a cushion for us to win the meet without having to have any exceptional things happen. One good thing is Tom was redshirted. I mean, he didn't go at all in the outdoor season, so I'll have him for another year. If we can get through this year and win it, then it would be really great. But if we lose it, he might have been a difference.
You don't have the point production of James Walker this year. How much of a burden is that?
Well, of course, we knew we were going to lose James Walker. We knew we were going to lose Harvey Glanz. You know, we'd like to keep those people forever, but we can't do it. We have some people take up the slack. Stanley Floyd will do well in the sprints. Mike Benjamin and Eugene Miller can help us in the hurdles, but the hurdles are the toughest race in the meet. There are 10 people in the hurdles that have run between 13.9 and 14.1, so it can go any way.
Is the home track any help?
I hope so. I mean, I've been worrying about this meet. I've been trying to put on a good meet, and I've been talking to people. I've made me convince the administration only to charge $1 for students, and I hope we get some people out there to yell for Auburn.
How many times have you figured the points, Coach?
Well, I usually figured about 7 or 8 times. When I get us a little bit ahead, I stop. But like I say, no matter how you figure it, it's going to be a close one.
Auburn was hoping for a long, drawn-out game since Vanderbilt had played a doubleheader Sunday and would understandably be fatigued. The Tigers never counted on the Commodores to perform in record-setting fashion. After all, it was Vandy who had only scored 2 against Auburn in the tournament opener. But Vandy did perform in record-setting style and came away with a 13-0 win in the finale last night. Auburn was still in the game, though, behind 4-0 in the 7th. The Commodores then exploded for 8 runs in the 8th, and that was all she wrote. Vandy's Hal Cohen broke the game open with a 2-run single that put Vandy up 6-0. Phil Deriso, who started in Auburn's 3-2 first-round victory over Vandy, picked up the loss. Vanderbilt's Dave Nenad shut out the Tigers on 6 hits to take the win and tournament most valuable player honors. The Commodores were the first team to lose its first game in the double elimination SEC tournament and still come back to take it all. Vandy also produced the most runs, 63, and the most hits, 71, in SEC tournament history. With the SEC title in hand, Vandy now goes to the NCAA Regionals carrying a 34-19 record. Auburn returns home with 27 wins, 24 losses, and second place in the SEC to their credit. Dave Cody, WSFA TV Sports.
Gray says he received the letter yesterday. In it, the Alabama State Bar Association's Disciplinary Commission cleared him of the unethical behavior charges lodged against him. Gray says the commission investigated several complaints that he allegedly split the fees in connection with a Phoenix City explosion suit, that he allegedly altered a client's deed before filing in court, and that he didn't carry out duties as trustee of a fund set up in a client's will. Gray says he's appreciative to the committee for dismissing the charges, but says he feels the Judiciary Committee is the proper forum to resolve the question of his qualifications to become a federal judge. Gray says he's sure the Judiciary Committee will hold a full, complete, and fair hearing. Next Monday, Gray and the 3 other Alabama nominees will appear in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee in Washington, D.C. for confirmation hearings. The final word should come within the next 2 to 3 weeks. Cassandra Taylor, WSFA TV News, Tuskegee.
The stop by the scholars at the governor's office is one of a number of scheduled visits with state officials. This group of Alabama students, which includes representatives from Montgomery and Elmore, are considered among the nation's most intellectual and accomplished graduating high school seniors. 141 scholars are selected annually to receive personal recognition. 1 girl and 1 boy are chosen from each state, the District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico. Students don't receive any monetary award, but they receive the Presidential Scholars Medallion, which commemorates their designation by the President of the United States. They're also invited to Washington, D.C. to be honored by their elected representatives. Candidates for the Scholars Program are identified through their ACT assessment scores. George Mitchell, WSFA TV News.
I'm very hopeful that that will happen. And if that does happen, I believe without a doubt this will go down as an excellent legislative session. I think the legislature acted constructively in passing some revenue measures, and I believe the people of Alabama will benefit tremendously from that. And we're totally committed to stretching those dollars as far as we can possibly stretch them, wherever they're used. Of course, we have 1 day left now, and I'm hopeful the budget can be resolved. And given that, I believe we would have had a good session.
Have you got any feedback as to how things are progressing relative to the budget?
No, I haven't. I think the conferees will be meeting regularly now from now on in until Monday. And in terms of total dollars in the budgets, there isn't that much difference monetarily to be resolved.
Funds for the current food stamp program will run out at the end of this month, which would have resulted in food stamp cuts for over 500,000 Alabama recipients. The original budget for the program for fiscal year 1980 was $6.19 billion, but officials say it was not enough. Now, even with the additional $2.56 billion requested, officials still say the program may not have enough money to complete this fiscal year, which ends September 30th.
A lot of this depends, we believe, on the stability of the caseload. If unemployment increases, then there's a very good likelihood that the funding would not be sufficient to maintain the current benefit levels through September 30th.
With House approval, the funding measure must now receive Senate confirmation before a midnight tomorrow deadline if the program is to continue without interruption. Dan Black, WSFA TV News.
The Energy Planning Commission is made up of representatives of the energy industry who come together and try to map out possible energy trends and needs for the future. While they're knocking heads in a conference room, some products manufactured by their respective companies sits in the main auditorium of the Civic Center. Just about all of the devices range in cost from under $100 to just more than $1,500. The cheapest thing being the tint film that can be applied to windows for both automobile and home. They cut down on the heat that normally goes through a window, making it cheaper to air condition inside. The price about $2 a square foot. The most expensive item is the power generating windmill. This big one, fully installed, cost about $18,000, but will generate enough electricity to cover the needs of an average size house of about 2,000 square feet. Smaller windmills cost less, but produce less electricity. In between these two items are a bevy of others ranging from wood-burning stoves to solar panels, which their manufacturers say will blow the savings right back at you. All of the energy-saving ideas are also good for tax deductions of up to $500 or $600 each, depending on how much the individual items costs. The only item any higher in initial investment is the still, designed to produce 120 gallons a day of 160 to 190 proof alcohol, which can be burned in a car without having to mix it with gasoline. The still costs just less than $20,000. But including the amortization of the still, the thing produces fuel alcohol at about 85 cents a gallon. The display will be up through Friday. Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News.
The question is, what happens to a person when prolonging life is no longer the goal, when illness is terminal, and when very little time remains for living this life? Many who are terminally ill would like to end their lives in familiar surroundings rather than isolation. Here in Montgomery, that possibility is becoming more of a reality as volunteers train to care for them in their homes. Hospice of Montgomery was incorporated a year ago to provide an alternative to the traditional care of the terminally ill. During the 6 weeks training program, they listened to nurses, doctors, lawyers, psychologists, and ministers in learning how to care for the dying. They are taught how to discuss ethical issues and anticipate questions that might deal with life after death, and how to deal with grief and bereavement. They're taught how to deal with the family and friends as well as with the patient himself. In a session on bedside care, volunteers are taught how to move a patient in bed and generally how to make him more comfortable. Once training is completed, the volunteers are interviewed individually by the hospice board to determine how to best use their services in the community. They're put under the care of a volunteer coordinator when they first go out, and they work with a health care agency in caring for the patients. Overall, hospice provides the terminally ill person an opportunity to share the last days of his or her life in a pain-free, caring, and supportive environment. This is Coping, and I'm Ivy Berman.
The one-page letter presented to board member Ruth Horn lists the names of 20 people who would serve as deputy registrars for Dallas County. F.D. Reese, chairman of the Black Leadership Council, says the additional personnel who would serve free of charge would allow citizens to register when the registrar's office is closed or when it's difficult for them to get to the office. Reese says there are many unregistered people in the county.
They have a right to become registered and have a right to have it made convenient for them to register. We don't feel that it should be an obstacle in that regard.
Reese says Governor James has encouraged the appointment of deputy registrars. Meanwhile, citizens of Selma's Ward 1 have filed suit in Dallas County Circuit Court to delay the July city election until precinct boundaries are realigned. A petition has been filed to remove that suit from the circuit to the federal district court. The city council says the present ward boundaries will be followed for the city's election. In Selma, George Mitchell, WSFA TV News.
But, you know, there's been no problem. When I make a decision as Attorney General, I attempt to draw on those 60 lawyers' bright legal minds and to try to understand and issue opinions as we read the law. And we try to use common sense, and we do it in the best interest of the 3.5 million people we represent. Hopefully he's a minority view.
In the past, Auburn students have been unable to vote in city elections because Election Day was held in August, which is between quarters. But recently, the city election date was changed to July 8th, and now SGA members say the students want to participate, and they want a city council representative. The SGA intends to hold voter registration on campus to sign up 1,000 students to vote in the city election. SGA President Trey Ireland says the students are upset over several city ordinances, which he says are unfair and are directed mainly at students.
I don't want to be any misinterpretation of this fact, is that we're not trying to be radical toward the city. We're not trying to take over the city in any way whatsoever.
Ireland says Auburn's population of 25,000 is made up of 18,000 university students who feel they deserve a voice in city government, especially since they are taxpayers too. Dan Black, WSFA TV News, Auburn.
Mayberry said he relayed Ralph McLemore's request for sexual favors to Cecil Dupree, but Mayberry said he had nothing to do with calling the women and setting up dates for McLemore, who is a former PSC director. Mayberry, a South Central Bell executive, in answer to questions from his attorney Sterling Culpepper, said no when asked if he'd ever paid PSC Commissioner Pete Matthews a $500 illegal campaign contribution. A chief prosecution witness, Cecil Dupree, had charged yesterday that Mayberry agreed to disguise a payment to Mayberry's private firm and give it to Matthews. Mayberry said today he did disguise the $500 as Dupree asked him, but Mayberry gave the money back to Dupree and not to Matthews as Dupree had said. Still under questioning by Culpepper, Mayberry admitted to falsifying expense vouchers for the night that McLemore allegedly received the sexual favors. But he said he did so only to keep Cecil Dupree's wife from knowing that Dupree was out with another woman. Mayberry also denied ever telling Dupree he paid former PSC Commission President Juanita McDaniel a $50,000 illegal political contribution. Dupree testified late yesterday that Mayberry told him of the alleged contribution. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News at the Montgomery County Courthouse.
Well, I said really in that type of operation there's no danger whatsoever associated. You can't even create a what-if situation which would cause any danger out of a fuel fabrication plant. We have them in operation. There are never incidents with them. There's not even an imaginary incident that we can cook up for that kind of a plant. It's benign and should be an attractive neighbor for the city.
This is my number, or rather it's the wire that tells the telephone company just how much money I owe it. Beginning Sunday, I'll be one of 37,000 telephone customers who experience the conversion to Bell's new electronic switching system.
At 1 o'clock Sunday morning, this new system will be activated. Customers having phone numbers beginning with 26, 832, and 834 won't hear an operator say, "What's your number?" when placing 1+ and 0+ long-distance calls. They'll be connected automatically. And those having numbers with the 832 and 834 prefixes will be able to dial direct almost anywhere in the world. That should prove a big help to the state's government offices, which are under the new system. The highly technical switching computer takes up one entire floor at Bell's downtown office, and there's just no comparison between it and the old system, which took up 3 floors.
In the long run, this is going to be more economical. We'll be able to serve far more customers in a smaller space, and of course that represents a savings in just building space.
And besides all that efficiency, the system will add new optional custom calling services for Bell customers. Sunday's switchover will be the largest ever in South Central Bell's 5-state territory, but the conversion doesn't stop there. Somerville says that by the mid-'80s, the electronic switching system will serve all telephone customers in Montgomery. Sydney Kohara, WSFA TV News.
It was a little early to be celebrating the end of school, and football season is a summer away. So what was the student body of Charles Henderson High School cheering about this afternoon? They were saluting the varsity baseball team, which plays Cherokee County tomorrow for the state 3A championship. It was the traditional pep rally with banners and plenty of just plain yelling. The Trojan ball players really appreciated all the attention given them, so much so that Coach Mike Hogan was overcome while addressing the rally. Later, in a relaxed setting of the baseball practice field, Hogan gave his reaction to the team's reception.
Well, I tell you, it's fantastic. Here in Troy, it's, I don't think Pittsburgh got much on us. I feel like it's a family affair down here, and we all get involved, and we enjoy it, and guys have a real good time, and everyone does, and that's what it's all about.
In Troy, Dave Cody, WSFA TV Sports. Featured speaker at the banquet was Coach Jack Powell, former Eufaula High School and Livingston University basketball coach. Also there tonight, Dr. and Mrs. Hanley Funderburk and AUM tennis coach Darrell Dunleavy, along with the Senators basketball coach Larry Chapman. Chapman presented the Most Valuable Player Award to senior Dan Boyd, who graduates in August with a degree in criminal justice. Boyd was also honored for having the best field goal percentage and being the team's best rebounder. AUM enjoyed its first 20-win season in basketball this year. Coach Dunleavy presented senior awards to netters Jim Cantrell and Don Clark. Cantrell also received the Take No Prisoners Award for accumulating the most 6-love wins. He had 30 on the season. AUM's tennis team won the NAIA District 27 title in late April and leaves later this month for the NAIA National Tennis Championships in Kansas City. Dave Cody, WSFA TV Sports. It was a little early to be celebrating the end of school, and football season is a summer away. So what was the student body of Charles Henderson High School cheering about this afternoon? They were saluting the varsity baseball team, which plays Cherokee County tomorrow for the state 3A championship. It was the traditional pep rally with banners and plenty of just plain yelling. The Trojan ball players really appreciated all the attention given them, so much so that Coach Mike Hogan was overcome while addressing the rally. Later, in a relaxed setting of the baseball practice field, Hogan gave his reaction to the team's reception.
Well, I tell you, it's fantastic. Here in Troy, it's, I don't think Pittsburgh got much on us. I feel like it's a family affair down here, and we all get involved, and we enjoy it, and guys have a real good time, and everyone does, and that's what it's all about.
Mike, who are some of the guys now on the team that have helped you get this far? Have you got mostly seniors? Or?
We start anywhere from 3 to 4 seniors. We have 5 seniors on our club, and they've just been great as far as leadership in regards to helping us through this year.
Who are some of them?
Of course, Ricky Knotts is our #1 rotation pitcher. He's 10-0 so far this year and done a fantastic job. Of course, as he has in the past years, and of course, we're kind of riding on his shoulders right here as far as pitching goes, and we're going to go that route. Another senior pitcher we have is Danny Hampson, and Danny was plagued in early season with a broken collarbone, and he's come back, and I tell you, it just shows a great deal of courage in that young man for doing something of that nature. Our other senior starters are Buddy Austin in center field, and he started there for 4 years, and he does some things in center field that are just miraculous. And also with bat too, I might add. Our other starter is Greg Barnett in left field, and Greg's bat has really come along in the last 8 or 10 games, and he's doing a fantastic job in the outfield also. And those are our 4 starters. Our other senior was injured in preseason. He had a broken ankle. That's Tim Pittman, and he kind of is our man that runs the dugout, keeps the books, and keeps everything straight. So those guys are just, you can't say enough about them.
Mike Hogan has been the baseball coach at Charles Henderson High School for 4 years. Tomorrow's matchup with Cherokee County marks the Trojans' 2nd consecutive appearance in the 3A championship game. The Trojans lost last year to Tarrant 1-0. Starting only 3 seniors, it's a good bet Charles Henderson High School will make a future home out of the 3A baseball playoffs. In Troy, Dave Cody, WSFA TV Sports.
We think that I'm eminently qualified to serve as a district judge. We're going to have some outstanding witnesses from Montgomery and Tuskegee and the whole area who will be up and who will testify for us. We think we can convince the Senate committee that I am qualified to be a federal judge. We're going to give it all we have.
Any special reason you're leaving so early?
Well, we just want to get up there and do our homework. I think I've done all I can do down here now, and the other people are coming up, and there's some things I need to do in Washington, and I want to go up and do them.
It was the second day of cross-examination of Mayberry by Evans. Mayberry said his job was Bell's liaison with the independent phone companies in Alabama and that he had nothing to do with rate hikes. The 51-year-old Mayberry did say he asked Delmer DuBose what the figures were while PSC commissioners were considering a 1979 phone rate increase. Prosecutor Evans then questioned Mayberry about 11 expense account tickets which showed Mayberry had wined and dined former Commission President Juanita McDaniel, PSC staffer Bobby Crew, and Ralph McLemore in the weeks leading up to the 1979 rate increase hearing. The Bell official said he took McDaniel and other PSC employees out to eat because it was his job to buy them a free meal. Defense attorneys Maury Smith and Sterling Culpepper explained that Mayberry's position required him to maintain close contact with all PSC business pertaining to independent phone companies, and that included entertaining PSC workers. But Evans charged that Mayberry set out early in 1978 at a meeting with Cecil Dupree to find a weakness in Ralph McLemore to influence the decision on South Central Bell's rate increase. Evans said that meeting occurred before McLemore came to the PSC and months before Bell filed for the increase. Mayberry didn't deny the meeting, but did say he wasn't attempting to find any weakness in McLemore. Evans charged that Dupree and Mayberry discovered that McLemore had a weakness for women, and that's what led to the June 25, 1979 party at a local motel when Mayberry and Dupree allegedly supplied McLemore with a woman. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News at the Montgomery County Courthouse.
Chairman Mac McKinney and other county commissioners say they've been trying to find a solution to the overcrowding problem, and they plan to convert the county law library into jail space in a few months. But Judge Varner told McKinney the law library is only a temporary measure, that it won't help in the long run. The commissioner's lawyer, Knox Argyle, received some harsh words from Varner when he said he doesn't believe the commission has violated a December 1977 consent decree. That decree ordered the commission to make improvements in the jail, including reducing the number of inmates to 120. Argyle said even though the jail has been housing more than 120 prisoners, many of them are state inmates. He said if the state would remove its prisoners, the county jail would contain only 86 inmates. Varner told Argo the commission knows it has violated the consent decree and that the responsibility for providing adequate space rests almost entirely with the county commission.
Judge Varner says various grand juries have been criticizing the county jail for years. He told the commissioners they better do something about it, or he may have to hold them in contempt of court and fine them, or put them in their own jail and see how they like it. He told the commission they have 60 days to come up with a plan that shows they're acting in good faith. From the federal courthouse, Lisa Nielsen, WSFA TV News.
That 2.1% drop in April construction marks the 7th straight monthly decline and puts the housing starts 42% below last year's rate. Home builders nationwide breathed a sigh of relief because the April decline wasn't as bad as expected, not like the 22% drop in March. But the bad news came with the number of housing permits issued. There was a 14% decline in permits issued in April, and the Commerce Department is worried the construction slump could worsen. Alabama is also suffering its share of construction woes, but according to Montgomery's chief building official, the state and the Montgomery area are defying those national statistics. Karen Scruggs says there was a 16% decline in the number of housing permits his office issued in April. But Scruggs says April's figures show a 29% increase over the number of permits issued in March, and he anticipates a gradual strengthening of the construction market. Scruggs is optimistic that if interest rates continue to drop, construction in Montgomery will definitely pick up. Sydney Kohara, WSFA TV News.
Prison spokesman John Hale says the explosion occurred in a welding class when 21-year-old Cecil Shavers put a torch to a steel drum containing some kind of combustible liquid. Shavers and 3 other inmates, Charles Norwood, Oscar Maddox, and Willie Clements, were also injured in the explosion. Hale says the 4 Draper inmates are taking the welding class as part of their vocational rehabilitation. He says Shavers' action is in violation of the welding shop rules.
In fact, they'd just been told 15 minutes earlier, reminded on their daily routine not to do that. 2 inmates brought it in, sat it down, the man touched it without pulling the plug or looking at all.
Prison officials say Shavers is listed in satisfactory condition at St. Margaret's Hospital with extensive damage to his hands. Maddox and Clements were also taken to St. Margaret's but were later released. Norwood was taken to Kilby Prison for x-rays. Hale says as part of normal procedure, prison officials will conduct a thorough investigation into the accident. Cassandra Taylor, WSFA TV News.
Conference committees must decide how much of a pay increase to give teachers and state employees, how a $1,369 million education budget should be spent, and how to stretch a $298 million general fund budget to cover all state agencies. The conferees, who don't usually meet publicly, agreed to back some previously recommended funding. They gave new life to the Alabama Commission on Higher Education by restoring $1.5 million to its budget. On the pay raise for teachers and state employees, the House and Senate conferees are a little more than a 1 percentage point apart on increases over a 2-year period. The conferees say a flat 16% increase for teachers requires more discussion and it will be done in private. George Layton, head of the Department of Education's post-secondary division, says some professional personnel in technical and junior college ranks could get as much as a 21% raise if they receive a professional step salary increase, plus a proposed 16% increase. There was no debate and limited discussion on the big issues facing the conferees. The fine points are expected to be worked out in private before recommendations are made to the full legislature. George Mitchell, WSFA TV News.
There was an arrest made yesterday on another incident that took place. This case clears up 3 of the complaints where the 3 women were assaulted and their purses taken from them, incidences that occurred in December of 1979.
Folsom says in recent months it seems as if politics and the courtroom go hand in glove. And commenting on the Mayberry trial, he says sometimes it takes the court system to correct those problems that need to be changed.
Cases like this do occur, of course, from time to time. The PSC, needless to say, has had a stormy past over the past 20 years. Hopefully we've had problems in the past, but hopefully we have been working, and hopefully we will work in the future to correct problems that we have on the commission. And if this is what it takes to get the job done, the legal process has been at work, and evidently has been at work effectively.
Folsom says any politician who doesn't want his actions scrutinized shouldn't run for public office. He says the Public Service Commission is one of the most scrutinized and most closely watched organizations in the state, and says the commission is working as they have in the past 8 months to establish some credibility with the public. As example, he says right now staffing the commission is their top priority. He says the average person leaves after 2 to 4 years of service. Folsom says a study has just been completed on what type of person should be on the commission, and says the commission will continue to use the state merit system. Cassandra Taylor, WSFA TV News.
Former Auburn and Miami football star Mike Colon came from behind to defeat Montgomery Mayor Emery Fulmer in a Heart Fund Benefit Challenge match at the Montgomery Athletic Club. The match is one of many events in the two-day Marathon Madness competition at the Carmichael Road Athletic Club. Mayor Fulmer, as loser of the match this afternoon, donated $250 to the Montgomery County chapter of the American Heart Association. It appeared the mayor had things well in hand, winning the first of the best 2 out of 3, but Colon rallied to win. Meanwhile, the action was fast and furious this afternoon at the Gunner Soccer Fields, site of this year's state YMCA soccer tournament. Among the local winners today in the competition that concludes tomorrow, the 8- and 9-year-old all-star team from the Southeast YMCA, coached by Dan Mayo. The Tornadoes, as they are called, defeated a team of all-stars from Tuscaloosa 2-1 in overtime. In order to win the state title in their age group, a team must win 4 straight matches. Albert McWhorter is coordinating the tournament. Dave Cody, WSFA TV Sports.
Yeah, we're at 410. The 120 has been advised that traffic.
I think the people of Alabama should turn their eyes toward Birmingham, because in the federal court up there, Broward Segrist, Dale Powell, Mr. J.R. Brooks have locked horns with some of the giant corporations of Alabama, and in my opinion, their success is necessary for the well-being of the people of this state.
Commissioner Britton says under the new law, only a small number of inmates will be eligible to earn early release from prison. He says those who won't be eligible for good time account for almost 70% of the present system. He says the Department of Corrections will do all it can to comply with the new law, but says they need more money to do it.
It's going to take additional prisons, and it's going to take some renovations of our present facilities to house the type of offenders that do not receive good time. Because you do have to house them differently, and the security level will be much increased, and in order to adequately secure inmates in a system that does not receive good time.
Britton says the new law won't affect persons already arrested and charged with a crime, but will go into force against criminals from today on. Cassandra Taylor, WSFA TV News.
First group, before introducing the staff.
That all the students at Cloverdale and citizens gathered, and they heard
in Montgomery have contributed some in mind, mentioning the real purpose of this meeting.
judges that you have put on and into the future so that we'll learn, and in turn you might teach and demonstrate by
a good many serious problems on our immediate agenda. But in the long run, I'm very optimistic what the administration is doing. I would try to build up the world community to take out of the International Court of Justice. And under the UN Charter, the Security Council has the authority to enforce decisions of the International Court of Justice. So we'll have another major round.
About a month ago, members of the Conservation Department discovered more than 100,000 dead fish in the Cahaba River. After investigating, water improvement staff members learned that the Olin Belcher Lumber Company had an oil and water separator that had leaked some of a chemical into a ditch leading to the Cahaba River. Olin Belcher's general manager told the Water Improvement Commission the company regrets the accidental leakage and says it was due to human error. But he said he was astounded that the commission puts a $50,000 value on 67,000 pounds of fish. Water improvement staffers explained that the $50,000 figure is in keeping with the Southeast Fisheries Association price guide. The commission voted to allow the Attorney General's office to decide what action to take against the lumber company. Lisa Nielsen, WSFA TV News.
Here are the team scores with the javelin, the pole vault, and the mile relay. are the team scorers with the javelin.
I want to welcome all of you people here tonight to this banquet. We feel like
and so we finally beat them. So after the ball game was over, I get a free ride off the field. You know, how they got on the sideline, I do not know. But it was, you do know.
John Tarver, son of Mr. and Miss John Tarver.
Still try. Make it good, we'll try.
Tucker. Turner. Turner. Venable. Wagner. Ford. Warren. Lumley. Williams.
And our committee to scrutinize the ones that we have.
Make any recommendations that would be adverse to any institution higher level.
Suspension of the rules and immediate adoption of the resolution. That's correct.
Courses they teach.
Their responsibility, but I think it would probably look at how well.
How those based on that higher education is supposed to report to the legislature on their recommendations. This intercommittee will report to us on their recommendations instead of these problems. And really, this is duplication.
You know, that's their prerogative to try to decide that, I suppose. I think something the St. John wants to go to take.
A lot of money to it. Work is right.
There was plenty of excitement in the air and on the ground as hundreds of airshow fans watched with amazement as the airplane and helicopter pilots performed their aviational feats. Along with stunt pilots and planes, there were also some military planes in the air. One of the main attractions was an aerobatic performer who rides on the wing of a stunt plane. Her name, Marie Stivers, and what a performer she is.
I could describe, I suppose, is if you stick your arm out in a car going 50 miles an hour and multiply that by at least 3, we're doing 160 to 180 miles an hour. And so the wind is very, very strong up there. Plus we're pulling about 4.5 G's of pressure on my body, 500-600 pounds of pressure on my body in the dives. And it's a lot of work.
Another air show and another ride on the wing of a plane. All a day's work for Marie Stivers. From the Wetumpka Airport, Dan Black, WSFA TV News. There was plenty of excitement in the air and on the ground as hundreds of airshow fans watched with amazement as the airplane and helicopter pilots performed their aviational feats with the greatest of ease. One of the main attractions was an aerobatic performer who chose to ride on the wing of a stunt plane. Her name, Marie Stivers, and what a performer she is.
Exactly what does it feel like, if you could explain it to a person who's never actually done that before?
Well, it's really hard to envision. I never could have managed it myself, but the closest I could describe, I suppose, is if you stick your arm out in a car going 50 miles an hour and multiply that by at least 3, we're doing 160 to 180 miles an hour. And so the wind is very, very strong up there. Plus we're pulling about 4.5 G's of pressure on my body, 500-600 pounds of pressure on my body in the dives. And it's a lot of work.
From the Wetumpka Airport, Dan Black, WSFA TV News.